incorrect, and that is that we may well have in hand some bills which offer good solutions to these copyright issues. Our state has a long tradition of supporting creative arts, where countless young musicians, songwriters, vocalists, and composers have created music that's enjoyed all over this world. There's come a wellspring of new technology, with innovative new companies developing apps and websites to deliver music to the public in ways never before possible or even thought about. Technology is making it possible for the small independent singers and songwriters to bypass traditional channels entirely. But the laws governing how they get paid haven't always kept pace. Music may be a source of enjoyment for us, but for artists, it's their livelihood. So it's important that singers and songwriters are paid fairly for their work. Some of us have previously called for the adoption of a willing buyer, willing seller standard across all platforms that ensures that artists are paid fair market rates. I'm proud to sponsor the AMP Act with Chairman Grassley, which would for the first time provide federal copyright protection to the sound engineers and producers for the royalties to which they are entitled. I want everybody to know that I'm pleased to support legislation to ensure that artists are paid for their works that were recorded before 1972. One of the bills before us today would erase an arbitrary distinction under current law and provide the same copyright protections for digital streaming for all artists. I also strongly support establishing new blanket licenses that will make it easier for digital music companies to broadcast more music to larger audiences. At the same time, it's important that we pass legislation that we don't create unintended consequences. With the Music Modernization Act, Congress is delegating a government activity to a private entity and then establishing how that entity is controlled. This bill would give control over new collectives to music publishers, publishers that already directly license with digital music companies, whereas a comparable current model that's already in place, Sound Exchange, a successful music licensing entity established by Congress, has a 50-50 board structure. This bill also seeks to address what to do with unclaimed royalties when an artist cannot be found. It establishes that after 3 years, royalties that go unclaimed will be split 50-50 between music publishers and other songwriters, different songwriters than the ones that are due these royalties. I've heard some estimates that this could be unclaimed, that these unclaimed royalties could be as high as hundreds of millions of dollars. So this indeed is a very big deal and requires a good long look. When looking at how to treat such a significant sum, we need to ensure that legislation does enough to find the songwriter who wrote the music and who has claim to these royalties. Are these individuals properly protected, and are there sufficient incentives in place to find the people that the money belongs to? And that's a great question that I have in mind. In conclusion, I support the general policies of all three bills, given that one of the bills we are considering is in response to mistakes that were made in earlier legislation. I believe we've got to perform our due diligence to ensure the legislation doesn't result in problems that will require an act of Congress to fix. So holding this hearing is both important and a first step. So thank you, Chairman Grassley. I'm pleased to be working with you to ensure that our singers and songwriters.
Rep, Pacific Northwest. Rep, Pacific Northwest.